I have to tell you that this is probably my new favorite technique in machine embroidery, the t-shirt ruffle technique. I've never done any machine embroidery that takes so little time, yet the outcome is so fantastic. It looks phenomenal. Now we are going to be working on this Valentine's heart, and I'm going to show you ways that you can use this design either on your t-shirt or onto another garment. For now, I want you to know that I'm going to demonstrate on pieces of cut t-shirt fabric, but this technique goes right onto any t-shirt. So you can use an old t-shirt, a new t-shirt. The technique calls for t-shirt, and that's the magic of making it look the way it's going to look. This design is going to be a free design that you can download. I'm going to demonstrate it if it's on a t-shirt, but I'm also going to demonstrate it if you are going to do it onto a jean and you want to make it like a raw edge applique. I'll show you exactly how to do that. The other fun design that we are going to demonstrate today that's going to be free is this breast cancer awareness pink ribbon. Now you can see that there's a raw edge, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can use the design creating raw edge designs. Look, I did this onto an apron. So if you would like to put this ribbon onto a black t-shirt and you don't want to use the black t-shirt because you want your ribbon to be pink, you can use this technique. So if you want to use a different color on a different t-shirt, you will do it the applique way. But if you want to do it like I did the red heart, we're going to go straight to the t-shirt. We've got many designs and many coming up in this fantastic technique. Just look at this fun designs. Look at this beautiful cat. The thing about this technique is that you can use so many different fabrics at the back, because you could use evening fabrics, you could use like golden lame, you could use cotton fabric. Look at this little bear. We used cotton fabric at the back. So the possibilities are absolutely endless. Once you start thinking about things you can cut up to use it at the back, you'll be amazed how many things you can come up with. Look at this star. Nice bright evening fabric at the back. It's like a golden lame in a shimmery greenish. It even looks purple at certain times. Oh, look at the mermaid tail. Such fun designs in this range. Super easy. Can you believe that most of these designs only stitch out for 4 minutes? I mean, you can finish up a t-shirt while the bathtub is running. Look at the butterfly. So beautiful. I know this is going to be a favorite amongst people. Beautiful butterfly, and look at the shimmer at the back. But cotton would look beautiful at the back as well. Look at our cute bee. Love this cute bee. I'll talk more about this bee and using it on thicker t-shirts just now. Look at the bunny. The bunny is so cute, and you can use like vintage fabrics. See, that was 100% cotton at the back. You can make a lot of baby designs on little blankets, on onesies. Many ways that you can use this technique with. Look at the paw print. That's fun. A lot of fun. The United States flag, I will be demonstrating on this one as well, where I did not use the raw edge, but I still used it as an applique onto a black t-shirt, but I needed the white t-shirt to make the flag. I'll be demonstrating on this one as well. You can see that I used a really shimmery, like a faux leather at the back of this design, and this one I've used the cotton at the back with the pink, very soft t-shirt at the top. So don't get confused because I'm working on pieces of the t-shirt fabric. I'm not demonstrating it right onto t-shirts, but this is as if I'm doing it right onto the t-shirts. Alright, so let's get started. Showing you how we're going to make the heart first. So I've already hooped our hoop that we're going to need. But what you are going to need is you are going to need some perforated cutaway or any medium weight cutaway stabilizer. Then you're going to decide what fabric you are going to use. Now for today I'm using a piece of red satin, bridal satin, but this one I've used the red golden lame fabric. So you can decide what you want to use. And then of course I've got my t-shirt. Now this is just a piece of t-shirt, but I could have done this right onto the t-shirt already, like onto a black t-shirt. Now there's one thing that is very, very important with this technique. Actually two things, but the most important thing is that you need to know that the design, when you're going to cut the design in the direction that you are going to cut with your scissors, that is the direction of the stretch part of the fabric. Now if I hold up this very thin t-shirt over here, you can see that if I hold it like this, this is the stretch part, which is the cross grain, and this is my grain. So you want to make sure that you hoop it so that when you're going to cut your heart, it's going to go into the cross grain, because that is what helps the t-shirt to roll up and get this effect. I love this effect. When you touch it, it's almost like velvety, and it really looks very, very great. I think this will be great for babies as for a touch and feel. They would like to touch this all the time. So the secret of getting it this way is using a thin t-shirt, and then you need to do it on the cross grain and not into the grain, else it will not roll up. If you're going to do it into the grain, the fabric is just going to lie flat. It's not going to open up. Right. So I've already went ahead and I've hooped my hoop. You can see I've got my black t-shirt at the top. Now remember, we're first demonstrating doing it onto the t-shirt using the fabric of the t-shirt to do the roll up part for us, right? And I've got my piece of red satin in the middle, and at the bottom I've got my cutaway stabilizer. Now it's very important, right, to not get confused and take your piece of fabric that you want and put it underneath. Some people get confused, then the stabilizer is in between and they put the fabric floating it from the back, and then when you are done and you start cutting it, you realize that the cutaway stabilizer is in between. It's important that the color fabric is right behind your t-shirt and your stabilizer is at the bottom. Now let's quickly talk about needles and thread. I'm using the 7511 sharp point needle. It works very well with your fabric. If you prefer to use a different needle, you can use them. I'm using the 7511. I'm using some rayon thread. I'm going to use a red color just to have it nice on top of the black. Now you can use polyester thread, you can use rayon thread, you can use variegated thread, even a strong metallic thread. It's totally up to you what you want to use. So we are ready to get started, and I'm going into my embroidery screen of the wonderful Babylock Solaris, and I'm going to select my heart design. Now this design comes in two sizes, and I'm going to work on the one for the 5x7 hoop. I'm just going into my information page and I'm going to make sure that I'm in the 5x7 hoop. Right. And I'm going to set it, and you can see that it fits nicely into the hoop. I'm going to click on the embroidery screen. Now you will see that each one of these designs, most of them have got 3 steps, right? Some of them have got more if it's something that's got different parts of the design. But now you might ask, why is there 3 parts of the design? It is to give you the option to make it into an applique design or not into an applique design. So for this one, it's not an applique design, it's a reverse applique design. So we're not going to use our outlines yet. I'm going to stitch them out. So if you look onto the screen, you will see that there's 3 steps. And you can see it's a 4-minute stitch out. And I'm just going to show you that step number 1 is basically the outline of the heart. Step number 2 is the outline again, and step number 3 is where we're going to stitch our details of our design. So for this part we only need step number 3, yet I'm going to run all the steps because later on you will see how I'm using all 3 steps that you can manually go back and forth to create your design. So I'm running my machine, doing my first outline. I'm going to run the second outline, which would be a tack down if it's an applique, just running it so that it's stitched. Our final step is to run the detail, and then we're done. Our design is done stitching, and now it's time to cut. Now I keep my design in the hoop because it helps if the design is nice and stretched. So I still cut it while it's in the hoop, although you can unhoop it and cut it. It's just easier this way and for me to show it to you. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut only my t-shirt. So you basically just want to snip on top of the t-shirt, not cutting into the satin, right? And you kind of want to take your scissors and lift your scissors into your t-shirt fabric like that. Can you see that? Lifting it up, and then you gently start cutting right in the middle of your row. And can you see how that is opening up, right? So I'm just going to snip it and cut it open, and all you do is you go row by row, and we are going to complete it. Now, it doesn't matter where you are, you just keep in the line of cutting. So let's say there's like a curve, you will just cut right in the middle into the curve. So you just keep cutting until you're done. Look at that. The thinner the t-shirt, the more it will curl up, right? Or roll up. So look how pretty that is. So once you're done, all you need to do is trim it at the back. And for that, you just turn it around, and you're going to first cut away your cutaway stabilizer. Trimming that away right next to the stitch line. And then you want to take your fabric and also trim it. Now with the fabric, you need to be careful, because you can cut into your t-shirt and you do not want to do that. So make sure you take your time on this, trimming right to the edge without cutting into your t-shirt. Alright, so you will just simply trim it. Now one of the first questions that people ask is, well, do they need to iron some stabilizer to the back so that it don't scratch? Probably if you do it for a baby, it's always a good idea, but this is so little stitching, right? So that it's not a hard embroidery design that will scratch you at all. And your stabilizer is soft as well, so I don't see a problem with that onto your skin, because it's not heavy stitching. And there we go, it's stitched out and it looks absolutely beautiful. But now I want to show you something that can happen, that your when you cut your design, that it's not going to open up as beautiful. There's two reasons why it could happen that it's not opening up as it should open up, like with this beautiful heart. The first reason is if you forgot to do it onto the cross grain and you went into the grain and now you cut it and it's just lying flat. The other reason I discovered the other night, when I did not the light was bad and I did actually not see that I was on the wrong side of the fabric. In other words, it's very, very important to stitch onto the right side of the fabric and not have your fabric wrong side down, so that the wrong side is basically on top, because when you cut into that, it's not going to roll up. And I can prove that to you I stitch it onto the wrong side, and when I turn it around, at the back it looks like almost woolly, or it's at the top. This it's supposed to be, the t-shirt is supposed to be like the woolly side on the inside and the smooth side on top. But my woolly side is on top now, and once I cut it, can you see that it's not rolling up? It's lying flat. So the same will happen if you are cutting it into the grain instead of into the cross grain where the stretch is. So even though I did it into the stretch of this design, it did not work because I was on the wrong side of the fabric. Just remember that. I can also show it to you with this bee, just to show you what happens if it's on the wrong side of the fabric. It hardly opened up. Look how beautifully it looks, almost 3D opened up. Now on this point, I want to say something about the thickness of your t-shirt. This is a very, very thick t-shirt, and I love this technique because you've got so many old t-shirts that you can use with this, because this is all about t-shirt. You will need t-shirt whether you're doing it onto a t-shirt or you are doing it as an applique. T-shirt is the magic that makes it roll up. Now this is a really thick t-shirt, right? And you can see when I cut it, it's still opened up, but it looks like more like a 3D open up. So it's not rolling up, it's opening up. So just keep that in mind for the effect that you want. For the bee, it's beautiful to have this effect that it just open up 3D. I kind of like this a lot. But the thinner the t-shirt, the more it will open up and roll open. Well, over here, it's basically just opening up. So just so that you know what the difference of the thickness of t-shirt is going to do. So let's go on to using it as I'm going to do the American flag first, and then we will do the breast cancer awareness. Now, I love the United States flag, and although this is not exactly like little stars, it resembles the flag in this fun technique, and it looks beautiful. But if I would have done this onto a white t-shirt, then I could use the white t-shirt in my design, and it would be like the heart. It's onto the design. Now personally, I like to do it right onto the t-shirt instead of doing it as an applique. But sometimes there will be a reason why you are going to do it as an applique. Like I'm going to show you, I want to put the breast cancer awareness design. I want to put it on the apron. And if you're going to put it onto something, you will then need your t-shirt as an applique. Alright, so also for color, if you want like a black t-shirt but you need white in the design, then you will be doing it as an applique so that you can cover it with white t-shirt, and it will open up with the magical way of doing the ruffles using the t-shirt. So let's get started doing the United States flag. We are now ready to do our United States flag. I've changed my thread color to a blue color, but that's optional. You can decide whether you want to use white or red, what you want to do. So we are doing it onto a black t-shirt fabric, but you are going to do it like onto a black t-shirt, alright? So don't worry about the fact that I'm just on a piece of fabric. So what we need for that is, I've already hooped my t-shirt part, right? And now what is important about your t-shirt, remember in the direction that you are going. But now it doesn't really matter because you're doing it as an applique, so you don't have to pay attention to this t-shirt now. You're going to pay attention to the t-shirt that's going on top as an applique. Remember, we're doing an applique now. And specifically for this one, I'm not doing it raw edge, I'm doing it close to the end, but you can even do it as a raw edge, which I will also show you. But I'm just trying to show you that if you want to do it onto a denim or onto a t-shirt with a different color, this is how you're going to do it. So I'm going to take a piece of red satin or red lame like I used in this one, and I've got a piece of blue for this part of the flag, and then I've got my important part to make the ruffles, of course, and that's the t-shirt. Now you will see that I've put a pin in over here. This is just to remind me which part is the front part, because you do not want to do it from the wrong side, because then as well it's not going to open up like it should. Right, so this is what we will need. So I'm going to go to my design on the screen. I'm going to select my United States flag, and I'm using the 5x7 one. Now I'm still in the 5x7 hoop, and you can see we need to rotate that. So I'm first going to set my design. I'm going to click on edit, and I will rotate my design. Now we're ready to start stitching, and I'm going to go into the embroidery screen, and you can see it's first running the outline. Now remember, these outlines that are with this design is just so that you can make it into an applique, which means you can manually go back to the first step or go back to any step that you want in order to create your design. So first it's going to run out the flag outline to show us where our flag is going to be on the design. So let's first run our outline. So can you see what's the difference between doing it as an applique and doing it as a onto the fabric, where it's basically a reverse applique? Our colored fabric is coming from the back behind the t-shirt when we do it onto the t-shirt. If we are doing it as an applique, our colored fabric is being applied from the front. So that means that when it needs to come from the back side to do the ruffles, we still need to cover it with some t-shirt in order to do the cut open. All right, so now I need to place my blue block over here. Now if you're going to use like evening fabric or like even the satin, I'm going to show you what you should do now, because one of the questions that people always ask me is, well, should you even use adhesive spray in machine embroidery? And my answer is, although I try to avoid it most of the time, there is certain times that adhesive spray is an absolute must. This is one of the cases that you do need adhesive spray, because if I would place my fabric over here and my machine start running, it's going to shift the fabric and it will bubble, and it's not going to give you a precise block of fabric at the top. So that's why we need, if it was 100% cotton, it would lie flat, no problem, no need for adhesive spray. So let's go and spray our little block over there with the adhesive spray. But before we do that, it's always a good idea to cover your machine. Now I'm only doing this because I'm in front of the camera and I can't move the camera now. That's why I'm covering my machine with some fabric. But I wouldn't even do it near my machine or near my computer, simply because I will never do that. So I'm protecting my machine with this. But the other great thing that I've got is my hoop mask. Now, if you don't know what a hoop mask is, we've got a fantastic tutorial on YouTube where I will show you how to make your own hoop mask using a dollar store placemat, looking really professional and beautiful. And it's wonderful to have this, because this is going to protect your hoops from looking gunky or getting dust and hair and stuff on them. So this is the perfect solution. So first what I do is I just take my hoop mask and I place it inside of my hoop. Now I just want to spray on the block over there. My hoop mask is going to protect my hoop, and I'm just going to take some adhesive spray. I like to use the KK2000 from Sulky. I'm just going to spray a little bit of adhesive over there. Then I remove my hoop mask. It protected my hoop, and I'm going to take my blue fabric and I'm just going to smooth it out on top of that block, and now it's perfectly going to lie flat. So I'm going to go back to my machine and I'm just going to run the tack down for my block. I'm going to remove my hoop, and what I do now is I'm just going to trim my fabric. You might want to be mindful what kind of fabrics you are using if it's going to fray too much. I just used this one this morning because my golden lame was finished, and if it's holding on to the spray at the back, you should just pull it up so that you can cut it right to the stitch line. Alright, that's why you just want to spray near to the block, not into the block or onto your t-shirt. But don't worry if it gets onto your t-shirt, because that part will wash out once it gets into the water. So I'm just trimming around. Right. You can go closer. It's kind of hard to do it in the Alright, so now our next step is going to run the outline to show us where our red fabric needs to be placed. I covered my machine again. I'm taking my hoop mask to protect my hoop, and I'm simply going to spray just a little bit of adhesive spray just to make it lie flat. Now it's nice and smooth, and I'm going back to the machine doing the tack down. I will now trim away the red fabric just close to the stitch line. Now that we've done our fabric placement, what we need to do now is to cover our design again with the fabric. Now on the screen you will see that the machine says it's already going to stitch the detail, but remember, because we are doing it as an applique, we need to put our piece of t-shirt. Now the piece of t-shirt, I just put my pin in over here to show me this is the front, so that I don't make that mistake, right? And also this is the direction that I'm going to cut into the flag. So what you need to do is make sure that your cross grain is in the stretch and that you are not into the grain trying to cover it. So I'm just taking my pin out so that I'm from the front, and I'm basically just going to lay my piece of t-shirt on top of the appliques I've done. And what you need to do now is go back to step number 1, and I'm just going to go back to step number 1 so that I can stitch that guideline and then manually go back to the last step after I've trimmed it. So I'm just going to go back to step number 1. My design is covered with the t-shirt, and it's going to stitch the tack down for my t-shirt. I'm now going to cut around my t-shirt, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a little bit of a border of the t-shirt on the side, just so that it's not right up until the stitch line. Now you can even, if you would like at this part and your machine has got the ability, you could have put a satin stitch around the design, but I'm just showing you using it as a raw edge and simply going 1/8 of an inch around like a little border. I went ahead and I cut like a 1/8 of an inch on the t-shirt just around it. That's just going to help your design not to pick up the stitches on the edges. Like this one was done close to the stitches. Although it's still fine, this one is just going to be a little bit more durable. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to my last step, stitching the detail before we can start cutting. Cut our t-shirt, and once again all you do is you want to make sure you don't cut into your fabric at the back. You just snip your t-shirt, make sure you're on top of the fabric, and you're going to start cutting by lifting your scissors up so that it kind of like pull into the t-shirt, and you're going to cut it open. At the edge there you can see that it's like stopping right in the middle. If you want to open up that even more, all you will do is cut it right next to the stitch line, because the stitch line in the middle over here is going to hold it, so it's not going to go anywhere if you cut it open at the edges, but that'll make it open up even more by just snipping it next to the stitch line at the edge. Right, so you will continue to cut open each one of your stripes. When you get to your little blue blocks over here, what you do is you're going to just start in the corner of the one block and go to the opposite corner, and what I like to do is first to cut like a few of them in the same direction, the whole row, and then I go into the other direction. But just so that you can see, I first cut from the bottom left to the top right corner, and then what you do And you're just going to snip it open so that it looks like a little envelope when it opens up. Each block, see, it's faster if you go row by row opening them up. So I'm quickly going to cut all of them and then I'll show you how to open it up. So I've done cutting all of my stripes and you can see, look how it's opening up if I do that. It's so fun. It looks like the flag is waving. It's beautiful, right? And over here you can just open it up over there, and this is so much fun. Whoever thought cutting up some t-shirts could be this much fun? So I would strongly suggest that you rather cut 1/8 of an inch rather than cut right next to the line. This will just give you a little bit more durability. Talking about durability, one of the first questions people will ask is, well, how will this wash? Well, you're going to wash it inside out just like you would wash any of your t-shirts, right? And the thing is that this t-shirt is just going to roll up and curl up over there and give you that effect. It shouldn't be doing much because the stitches is holding it into place, right? But one thing you want to be mindful of is the back fabric that you're going to use. Is choose a fabric that do not fray. So 100% cotton is a good choice, but like batik would be a fantastic choice for not fraying. The evening, anything that's got like lycra or stretch in it that don't fray is a perfect choice for using at the back. And I kind of like to use these golden lame type of colors. They don't fray and they look absolutely beautiful. So that is how you will do your American flag. So let's go on to doing our breast cancer awareness, also showing you that if how you're going to do this into an applique with raw edge, doing it right onto the garment. So we are going to do our breast cancer awareness design, and if you look on the way I did them onto these examples, right, you can see that I've used the t-shirt and the fabric came from the back. So remember, if it's onto your t-shirt, my colored fabric is coming from the back. If I'm doing my applique part onto another surface like jean or like onto like an apron, my colored fabric is going to come from the front. That's basically the difference, and then you're just going to manually help it. So you can see that this was done onto the apron, and it's got a little bit of a raw edge because you don't want to cut right next to the line. It's just helping it for the durability. And you can see that I've got, like, you can see the back fabric and the t-shirt, that I did cut them both, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. So I went ahead and prepared my hoop, right? So I've got my hoop with some cutaway stabilizer. I've determined the middle part of my apron, and I simply float it on top using some pins out of my embroidery area, right? That's how I pin it down. Now, one thing that I want to just say about hooping a t-shirt. If you are going to hoop a t-shirt, you just want to make 100% sure that when you hoop the t-shirt that you don't pull your t-shirt and then do your design on, because when you unhoop your t-shirt and it comes back to its normal size, your design will pucker. So I strongly suggest that you rather float your t-shirt on top of the cutaway stabilizer than hooping it, because hooping it, if you're going to pull onto that t-shirt, it might have some puckering around the design. Well, when you are going to float it on top of the stabilizer, you won't get that result. So I'm just making 100% sure that this don't get caught up under the hoop. So I just want to make sure that it's out of the way, and I've already prepared my apron on top of the design. We got some of these aprons at a really good price in our store if you need some aprons. And I've got my breast cancer awareness design. I've changed my color thread to pink, My bobbin thread is just ordinary 60 weight bobbin thread. They don't need to match the top thread, but you could make it match if you want, for a certain reason, want the bobbin thread to match the top thread, like making a patch design, or if it's something that people are going to see from the back. So I've selected my breast cancer awareness design, and you can see that the first outline is going to show me the placement on top of my design. So I'm going to run my outline. Now remember, we don't have the fabric coming from the back. We are on top of our apron, and it needs to show us where to place our fabric to do our applique. So now I've got my fabric tacked down. You can see now I could go ahead and already cut it out, but I'm going to save that step because I'm going to cut it all at once I've covered with the piece of my t-shirt fabric. Now I've got a really thin, nice pink t-shirt over here. Now first you need to ask yourself, in which direction am I going to cut, right? So you can see the way our design is over here. We're going to cut in a horizontal direction. So in other words, my cross grain needs to be in a horizontal position. So I've got my fabric over here. Cross grain is in a horizontal position where the stretch is, so that I can cut it open. And I did put my pin so that I can see this is the front, because remember, if you're going to turn it around, doing it from the back, then simply it's going to not open up as good as it should. Now I'm just going to cover my fabric and make it lie flat, but because this t-shirt is very, very thin, what I'm going to do is kind of like just secure it with some pins. Now you can't put adhesive spray at the back of this fabric to secure it, simply because when you want to cut it open, it's going to stick. So I just want to use a few pins, not a lot of them, just to kind of like hold it in place of the t-shirt. It depends on the type of t-shirt. When I use it on the flag, the white t-shirt was a thicker t-shirt than this specific pink one I'm using. The other thing that I want to say is you can also do this technique on printed colors, like this roses. It's absolutely beautiful. Then you can use like a solid color from the back and be really creative. So be creative. You don't have to only do this onto solid colors. You can absolutely do this onto a printed t-shirt as well. So there you can see I just like kind of like secured my pink. I make sure that everything is out underneath the hoop. I'm not going to go up onto it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back one step, because before I do the detail, I just want to secure my t-shirt first. So I'm just manually going back one step, because basically I got two tack downs now. I had the bottom one as a tack down, and now I'm doing the t-shirt as a tack down. Now before I'm stitching my details, I just wanted to show you that this was a really good decision to pin it down, because there wasn't any movement on my t-shirt. It's lying nice and flat and didn't make any bubbles, so we're going to get a good result. Take that extra step and you will have perfect results. So I could cut it out now already, but I'm just going to leave it until the end by already stitching my detail, because it won't make a difference whether I cut it out now or I'm going to stitch the details. So I'm going to go to my final step, number 3, make sure that no part of my apron is underneath the hoop, and simply stitch my details. We are done stitching our detail. It's time to trim our raw edge applique and cut our design open. So just like you were trimming your fabric from the back side when we did it onto the t-shirt, you're simply trimming it now from the front side. But what I do is I take both of my fabrics, right, and just get a point where you can cut into it like that, so that you can cut them both together. And you take your time because you kind of like want to do it neat. And I'm just going to start a little bit, and then I'm going to do it off camera because it's hard to cut on this surface. So I'm just cutting like eyeballing 1/8 of an inch around like that, right? And then the other thing that I'm going to do besides trimming around my design is I'm going to cut my t-shirt. And remember, you now on the edge I cut into both layers, but when I cut on top of the t-shirt, I only want to cut my t-shirt part. So you just snip it so that you can lift the t-shirt, and you're going to cut it open. Remember, we do not want to cut into our fabric. Look at that rose peeking over there. How beautiful is that? And you're simply just going to cut. The thinner the t-shirt, the easier it cuts. I'm just going to go, whenever you go into a curved part, you simply will then curve your scissors, and I'm going to cut it open, and I'm going to cut around it, and I'll show you the end result. So I went ahead and cut my little raw edge along the line, and I cut open my t-shirt. Look how beautiful my back fabric is coming through, ruffling it. And this is so pretty. Oh, the possibilities with pink fabric is amazing. You can go glitter, you can go the most beautiful cottons coming through. So this is how you would do it, like as an applique onto a darker t-shirt, or like onto a jean or something that you want to use it on. This is the smaller design. We do have one that's larger than this one, and this is perfect. Go and do something good with this design. Make a t-shirt for a breast cancer survivor. I know all of us has been affected somehow in our lives with the reality of breast cancer. So let's spread a little awareness by using this fantastic design, and I know you're going to have a lot of fun. So let's rehearse or go through the steps of this technique of the t-shirt ruffle. So you've got the two options: doing it onto the t-shirt. Let's put it over here. So the rule for onto the t-shirt is my back fabric, or the back of the t-shirt fabric is coming from the back side, right behind the t-shirt. If I'm using a 7511 needle, bobbin thread, doesn't matter. You can use whatever thread you want to use. Just make 100% sure that my direction that I cut with my scissors is into the stretch of your t-shirt. Also very important, make sure that the right side of the t-shirt is facing up. You don't have it the other way around, else it will not open up. So the cross grain is key over here. If I'm doing it onto something else, doing it as an applique, like this raw edge applique, what you're going to do is you are going to basically work on top of your base fabric, and your appliques will come from the front, and then the process is exactly the same, but one step is going to be manually, where you're going to add your t-shirt fabric on top of your back fabric, and that's all there is to it. The rest of it is exactly the same. So let's go and have some fun doing our ruffle technique.